So my name is Dr. Joe Roberts and I am a lecturer in integrated pest management at Harper Adams University. So I think my job is quite varied in a lot of ways. So I get to do lots of cutting edge work related to agriculture and sustainable living. And I think probably the coolest thing, from my perspective is that I get to work with lots of different people, particularly younger people who have similar interests to me, but allow me to guide them and mold them into scientists that will go on and serve the next generation of agriculture. So I did the classic A-levels, biology, chemistry, physics, maths, further maths. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. Ended up doing biology as an undergraduate degree. Still didn't know what I wanted to do, so ended up doing a chemistry master's degree and then settled on doing a PhD that combined both of them. So really I've got quite broad interest across STEM, but I think that it was logical for me to combine different elements into a single career pathway, which I think agriculture in particular allows you to do, because it's not just one type of STEM, it's lots of different components that come together to make a very multidisciplinary sort of industry. I basically get to do the really exciting things that no one else is doing. So a lot of this cutting edge research is stuff that we don't know about, and I get to be at the forefront of that, developing new technologies, making agriculture more sustainable, and transferring technologies from different industries and disciplines. So I've been involved with lots of research with pharmaceutical companies looking at their nano delivery of drugs for humans and how you can use that to encapsulate pesticides so that they're more sustainable in the future and they don't have these impacts on other organisms and things like that. So translating lots of cool research that we don't necessarily get the funding to do, but we can take it and adapt it for our own needs. So I guess, working with lots of different industries, different disciplines to come together to advance agriculture. So I think the coolest thing that I've been involved in personally was a project a couple of years ago where we were looking at whether you could basically vaccinate plants in essence. So if you spray them with this particular chemical, cisjasmone, it's a naturally produced chemical that honeysuckle plants emit when they're stressed. And you apply that to different crops, it upregulates defenses within the plant. So you're kind of priming them to infestation by different insect pests or diseases. And that gives them the ability to fight those naturally without the requirement to apply as many pesticides. So manipulating plant physiology to basically be vaccinated against different pathogens and pests in the environment. And it was a really cool piece of science, lots of different collaborators from across the UK, and yeah, it was really exciting to be a part of that particular project. I think that the most unexpected element of my job is that a lot of people are interested in agriculture but don't necessarily know it. So if you talk to people in the street, they don't really think about where their food comes from, but they are worried about things like pesticides. So you read in the newspapers about pesticides, having these negative impacts, but what they don't really do is connect that with agriculture and the good work that places like Harper Adams do in terms of developing agriculture so that it is more sustainable. The most useful, I think, meeting people. I get the opportunity to work with a lot of students at the university, and these are people that go off and work in the same industry as me. So I build a lot of connections with industry, which means that I know what industry wants and needs, and I'm able to work with them to develop solutions to their problems. The most exciting, I think, every day is just a different challenge. So there are lots of different things happening. I've got somewhere between 15 to 20 projects ongoing at any one time. I get to do lots of cool things with lots of nice people. And, I just get to be a part of making something good and great, which is UK agriculture. A good piece of research, or an interesting piece of research that I'm doing at the moment is working with one of our PhD students, Laura. She's looking at how aphids have become resistant to their natural enemies. So these parasitic wasps that lay eggs inside them, they're a form of natural pest control, but we're starting to see that they're becoming resistant to these wasps. So a little bit like humans and antibiotics, there are fewer options to control these pests. And she's looking at the different microbes that are within these pests to see how that confers resistance against these natural enemies. And she's untangling that with the expectation that if we can identify what's causing it, we might be able to solve it so that we can carry on using these sustainable mechanisms of control. So I think that, the reality is that about 25% of our crops that we grow are lost in the field to pests and diseases. My role as an entomologist is to try and offset those losses. So we need to feed an ever-growing population. That's the reality of the situation. We're going to hit 10 billion people by 2050. In order to feed that number of people, we need to sort of maximize our outputs on the land that we currently use. We don't have the luxury of using more land. So one way to do that is to gain back these losses, and we need to do it in a sustainable way that doesn't destroy the environment. So I combine, my love of agriculture with the environment to try and offset those losses in the fields so that we can feed that growing population. So I think I'm inspired by mostly the students that I work with, actually, because Harper Adams is a very unique place. People come here knowing that they want to work in agriculture. My background isn't agriculture. I did straight STEM subjects, biology and chemistry. I'm not from an agricultural background, but I got exposure to insects and then agriculture throughout my education. And I'm inspired by the students and their passion for the subject, and it makes me want to engage with agriculture and the people that work in agriculture to help solve probably the biggest challenge that we have, which is feeding a growing population under very challenging circumstances.